Okay, welcome. I mark us at 8:30, so I'm going to get it started on time. This is the second time I've given this course, and it takes about 3 hours to get through the material. The whole course is a collection of advice. I call it habits as sort of a clickbait title to get you guys in here. But the word habits can be replaced with best practices, tips, tricks, advice from other project managers. And I'll explain where all that data came from, but you guys unwittingly are participating in that ongoing collection of advice. This is just sort of a pet passion of mine, project management, and collecting this sort of advice is what this whole course is based on. So another key thing to point out before we jump into this, and that is this is not a class on how to manage projects per se. I'm assuming you guys know the basics. You know how to put a Gantt chart together and put a budget together and do communication and risk management and things like that. That said, I am going to be touching on each one of these areas. So again, this is not a course on how to manage. There's a lot of advice and tips and tricks and best practices that is the purpose of this class, is to convey that to you. But again, I'm not teaching you how to put a Gantt chart together. So let me kind of talk about what the course is about. I'm going to do a quick introduction about who I am. Single slide, just give you a basis of where I'm coming from so you can kind of put that in context. And then I'm going to ask, who are you and what is your best advice? And that's that piece of paper I just handed out. And I want you to fill it out right up front and hand it in so that I don't bias your answer with the rest of the course. I want your unsolicited, unpolluted, if you will, advice, because this is going into this survey, and I'll explain that in a minute. And that's the next section. I want to talk about where this data came from. It came from people like you, it came from experienced project managers and some very experienced project managers. And it's been distilled down into something that I call the 7 habits. There's actually a lot more than 7. There's probably closer to 50 or so that I'm going to be talking about. But it's 7 broad categories of advice. And then how this is ending up in a presentation is sort of what the presentation is sort of based around. These are the 7 habit categories. And we'll be going through each one of these, probably 20 minutes or so in each one of these, some a little more than others, depending upon on how the questions are going. So there's scope and triple constraints management. Triple constraints are quality, schedule, and budget, and I'll describe that when we get to it. Procurements management, how do you actually deliver the deliverable that your project is tasked with producing. Risk management, communications, project team management, supervision, stakeholder, and then leadership, which is sort of this squishier, softer skills, kind of my favorite area actually to talk about. And then we're going to wrap up, and that's really what we're here to talk about.